On the banks of the River Ster, in the southern reaches of the grand province of Ostermark, sits the dead city of Mordheim. With shards of warpstone littering the streets, it has become something of a beacon to both the desperate and the damned. Many who venture there fall victim to the mutating effects of chaos and succumb to the temptations of the ruinous powers. It is not uncommon for them to then venture beyond the confines of the city into the dead woods and ravage the communities that live within. On a cool summer evening, local hunters encountered an abnormally large group of mutants and cultists moving through the dead woods, heading for the village of Bunthafen. Among their number walked a hideous chaos spawn and several bloodletters of corn. The hunters ran back to their homes to alert the local lord, Baron Helmut Aust. Knowing outside help wouldn't arrive in time, the Baron called up the men-at-arms at his disposal and made haste to the village. As the first rays of light threatened to break the horizon, the Baron assembled his men on the outskirts of Bunthafen, just in time to see the forces of chaos emerging from the forest. The Battle of Bunthafen had begun. Today's battle is a 300-point solo game of Warhammer Fantasy 6th edition Warbands, played between the Empire and the Hordes of Chaos. As the defender, the Empire forces will be deploying their entire army first, and then taking the second turn. The Empire army today is led by Baron Helmut Aust, a captain equipped with plate armor, a shield, and a lance, mounted atop a warhorse with Barding. Joining him is a unit of 3 knights, which have been deployed on the eastern flank of the Empire forces. In addition to the knights, the Empire army has a unit of 5 Greatswords, hunkered behind a small fence on the main road. Beside them are a unit of 6 swordsmen, representing half of the militia that could be assembled. The other half are made up of archers and crossbowmen, each sporting 3 models apiece. Standing opposite them are the Hordes of Chaos, led by the chief cultist Vestalk. Today the cultists and mutants will be represented by Marauders of Chaos, as no other suitable option is present in the rules. Vestalk is a chieftain model equipped with a shield and light armor, as are the other Marauders in his unit. This unit is also carrying the cult's personal icon of chaos, taking the form of a banner. On either side are 2 more units of Marauders, one equipped with flails and light armor, marked with yellow dots, and the other with great weapons, marked with blue dots. Finally, on the flanks of the army stand their demonic allies, a unit of 5 Bloodletters of Khorne, and on the other flank, a Chaos Spawn. The goal of today's game is to eradicate the enemy forces. Typical Warbands games only last for 6 turns, but this one ended up going a little longer to confirm the victor. The game begins with Chaos's turn. The Chaos Spawn rolls low for its movement, something that will become a running theme throughout the game, and moves directly forward to take shelter behind the rock formation and remain hidden from the enemy archers. The rest of the army marches forward into the oncoming fire from the Empire units. Lacking significant numbers to execute volley fire, however, the first 2 turns see only 1 casualty removed apiece. It's not exactly the early advantage that the Empire side was looking for. There is, however, some good news for them, as on the second turn, Baron Helmut Aust leads the knights in a daring charge against the Bloodletters. The Baron successfully spears one of them on his lance, while his horse tramples another. The Bloodletters strike back, but the tough armor of the knights is too much, and they fail to inflict any damage. The poor outcome of the fight causes the Bloodletters to fade from the battlefield, and the knights victoriously thunder forward, while the great weapon-wielding cultists begin to flee from the battlefield. At first the knights give chase to the fleeing cultists, but they fall short of closing into melee with the disorganized mob, and find themselves stuck far behind enemy lines. Despite this failure, the charge of the knights is seemingly enough to unnerve the cultists, as they will fail to rally before fleeing off the battlefield entirely. At the same time, the remaining cultists march forward into a potentially dangerous position between the archers and the crossbowmen. Despite exposing themselves like this, neither formation is able to take advantage, their arrows and bolts failing to inflict serious damage, and the cultists are permitted to charge the defensive line ahead. The Greatswords meet the charging cultists head-on, losing 2 of their own, but striking down 2 in return, and winning the fight by the slim difference in numbers alone. Meanwhile, the swordsmen lose a man, and fail to inflict any casualties themselves. Emboldened by their superior numbers, the success of their attacks, and the presence of their icon, the cultists easily overrun the swordsmen and cut them down as they flee. Looking to their left, they are dismayed to find that a similar fate has befallen their comrades, who the Greatswords have managed to catch up to and strike down. Now finding themselves close to the Chaos spawn, the Greatswords turn to face this foe, while both the archers and crossbowmen open fire on it to no avail. In the next turn, the Chaos spawn charges into them, skewering two of the Greatswords on its horns. The final man swings with a great cry, and manages to slice the beast's head in half. Unfortunately for him, the beast has mutated beyond all logic, and its head has since become unnecessary. Despite inflicting a grievous blow, the man is forced to flee from the monstrosity before him, barely escaping with his life. On the northern edge of the battlefield, the cultists are busy trying to maneuver to be able to continue contributing to the battle. Unfortunately for them, their vigor in chasing down the swordsman has left them well out of position, a mistake that takes several turns to fix. Dealing with a similar problem, the knights have come around and do their best to charge the Chaos spawn, overcoming their fear but ultimately falling short of what was a very optimistic charge. As the Chaos spawn advances on the archers, who continue to shoot it to no avail, the knights opt to march forward on their next turn to ensure they can come to the aid of their allies. Seeing the incoming cultist threat, the crossbowmen rotate their ranks to face them, and while their first volley fails to find its mark, as the cultists advance on their position, the second volley does, killing two of them in the process. In a typical game, the battle should have stopped here. Seeing that there is still a chance for the Chaos spawn to defeat the knights, and the cultists are about to charge the crossbows, I decided the game was too close to call just yet, and an additional turn was played to see how things played out for both sides. In the final turn, the Chaos spawn charges the archers, who try to flee but are unable to make it and are all run down. Meanwhile, the cultists attempt to charge the crossbowmen, who open fire to no success. Tragically, the cultists fall just half an inch short of this charge. Now exposed, they are hit with another volley, and one more of their number falls. Seeing their allies fall, the knights again muster the courage to charge the Chaos spawn, and once more Baron Helmut Aust displays his heroism, piercing the monstrosity through its heart and slaying it instantly. With this, the game came to a close. While the few more turns could be played out, at this point the inevitability of a devastating cavalry charge on the cultists was clear, and the game was called a decisive, yet costly victory for the Empire. As the sun rose on the town of Bunthafen, the citizens could rest easy, though at the cost of some of them not coming home at all. With the battle over, it seems fitting to review a few of the tactics used on either side. On the Chaos side, the majority of the blunders seem to lie in the deployment and advance of the army. The threat of the ranged attacks pushed them forwards a bit too quickly on the right-hand flank, where a slower approach to try and expose the knights to a countercharge would likely have been a better decision. Likewise, putting the Chaos spawn on the left flank meant that the archers weren't really threatened nearly as quickly as they could have been. The other major blunder came with the decision to chase the swordsmen. If they failed to rally, they would have fled off the battlefield immediately in the next turn, and if they didn't, they would waste a turn reforming, which would allow the cultists to declare a charge again, or assume a more defensive posture on the barricade instead. By chasing them, the cultists ended up well out of position and couldn't contribute anything else to the rest of the battle. On the Empire side, the decision to charge the fleeing cultists was the only obvious major blunder in hindsight. While it all worked out fine, wheeling around or turning, moving 5 inches to the side, and turning again to threaten the rear of the Chaos formation would have resulted in a much more decisive victory. While the cultists charging the barricades couldn't have been prevented, the Chaos spawn could have been charged on turn 4, saving both the Greatswords and the archers and locking in a victory right then and there. As things were, however, it made for a closer and overall more enjoyable game, which is what really matters when playing, so I think it was still the best decision. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Every bit helps the channel grow and ensure there are plenty more Warbands battle reports to come. Tune in next week for the defense of Bokgorel Mine, a 350-point battle between dwarfs and orcs.